oh my God, I could have passive income in a Ferrari. I'm just stupid enough not to take this course. Like, why am I the asshole that didn't fucking get the Ferrari and have like $20,000 a month coming in and doing nothing on a beach? Like, I just have to click this ad. Well, I'm not gonna be that guy. I'm gonna click this ad.
Welcome everyone to Addicts podcast. Hey Michael, long time no.
What's up, dude?
Long time no talk. People have been asking about you.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people have been asking me about actually Elizabeth. They're like, "Oh, where's
Well,
Elizabeth?"
yeah, that's who they should be asking about.
But some of them have been really asking about you too. Like there's few people that are like, "Oh, I really love the episode with Mike," and
well, that means a lot. Yeah. I think I kind of operate from this notion that like people shouldn't care about me, and so it's like, what's wrong with them that they're interested? Like I want to tell you, oh, I'm like, yeah, I got bravado and all that kind of stuff, but I'm always kind of floored when people are that interested. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, and I just to kind of give everyone some background info. So Mike's gonna be on the podcast every other week, because like the podcast is called Authentic as Fuck, and a lot of the message that I talk about branding and personal branding and marketing, but a lot of it relates back to authenticity because it is a huge part of personal branding. So I just wanted to like have chats with you so that we get like a real. I mean, you obviously know a lot about authenticity, a lot more than me. So I just wanted to kind of get your outlook on things on a continual basis.
And you're a good friend and you helped me build everything. And so like there's also all of that. Like I just think it's cool the way that we met. Like I was looking for someone to help me carry this message, and it turned out you'd already seen the TED Talk. And so it was meant to be. And I think that I don't know that I would be where I am right now. I know I wouldn't be if we hadn't come across you and built a relationship with you, because believe it or not, I teach authenticity, and it was scary to be authentic in building the brand. And you were the one that gave me permission to do that. And also you and Elizabeth were really good at calling me out when I wasn't doing it, even though I wanted to. So I just think it's kind of cool that like, you've helped me really find my voice around authenticity, and you're building a killer platform. And so if what you're doing has authenticity as a part of it, I thought it'd be really cool too.
Yeah.
Besides, it's an excuse just to talk to someone.
Yeah, and we love just chatting.
Like everybody listening, like screw you guys. Dude. Like this is not about you. This is about Son and I. And yes, Elizabeth is no more. I kicked her out, and I'm taking over. Or our son really kind of kicked her out. That's actually the real problem. We decided to procreate, and she wants to be spending more time with him.
Yeah, how is Wolfie? How's the
Wolfie's good, dude. He's so Elizabeth and I both are kind of like type A, hardcore perfectionists. Like it's amazing that we have such a great relationship. I think it's just, I genuinely think you have these two really strong personalities, and the reason that it works is we're both authentic. And so when we see that our character defect is causing friction, we're willing to own it instead of defend it. But what that also means is because of that great thing, you have a household with some pretty strong freaking people like that are type A, and like we're like efficiency freaks in how we do groceries. Like it's a problem. And so they say that your oldest child is going to be more stressed out because you're going to have more anxiety and you're going to be more controlling. Well, we have a ton of anxiety and we're very controlling. And so Amarette is actually like now the boss of the household. She's almost
nice.
2. But like Wolf is so much more chill because like we're not trying, our personalities aren't saying we have to figure this out, because we were so freaking scared that we were going to do something wrong or mess something up. And it's just like, we were just really scared with Amarette, and like, so a lot of that came out. And so Wolf is a lot more chill because we're being more chill with him. And now I understand why oldest children have a tendency to be more stressed and the younger have it. Like I was always like, oh, that's just like a horoscope. I don't know what that means. And now I'm starting to put it together.
your older kid is like your first business, right? Your first business, you're just like,
You're like, man, I made all the mistakes on that one, dude. If I could go back and do it, sorry, Amaret. Sorry about that, dude. Yeah, yeah, it is. It's like it's all the mistakes. You make all the mistakes and then you learn from them. And then, I think it works out fine as
yeah,
long as you try to be a good parent.
yeah,
But he's good and she's good. He's not sleeping as well as Emmerette was, which is hard on Elizabeth and obviously probably hard on him, but it's slowly getting there. We're just very impatient people. So we're like, Emmerette was sleeping 12 hours by this time and he's not. And I think Elizabeth will need like 5 years to catch up on all the sleep that she's lost. She's like, we should get a tattoo with a big S on her chest because I call her Superwoman. Like
mm-mm.
she's amazing, and I think her doing this podcast was part of that. She really wanted to do it. She really cared about you and your message, and so she wants to be, or she wants to be a part of it. But
Yeah,
she was also part of our business, and she had to step out and say, you know what, I want to be the best mom I
yeah.
can be, and I like who's going to
And I
say
kind of felt
don't
that.
do that?
I felt like because I brought it up to her first, right? I said like, "Hey, do you want to take some time off?" Because like, I felt like she had a lot going on, but she
Yeah,
wasn't actually like telling me like, "Hey, this is really tough for me," and that's why like I kind of mentioned it, and I'm glad I did because
I'm glad you
now you're
did
telling
too.
me.
Well, and she doesn't ever want to let anyone down. I'm sure a lot of
Mhm.
people can relate to that. And she's a perfectionist, so she's like, I'm not enough. And so she didn't want to let you down. So you asking her genuinely, hey, do you want to take time off, gave her a little bit more permission to do it. And I think that's like, I have to do that with her, and she has to do that with me. Like a lot of times I need someone to give me permission to not basically self-sacrifice for what I think is better when a lot of those better things aren't that important in
Yeah,
the grand scheme of
yeah,
things.
exactly.
And yeah, so she was grateful that she could get. Um, I mean, you think it was tough that she bowed out of your podcast? She bowed out of our business,
Yeah,
like
yeah. And when you
everything
told
that
me
we're
that,
doing to
yeah.
run the Mass Free program. Like she's gone, and it's really weird to deal with an ex-employee that was so integral to your business that's still walking around your house all the time that you have a relationship with. And you're like, oh, I remember that you used to be a badass and have all this like great stuff that you do. And now Brooke and I, another member of our team, are trying to figure it out. It's like walking around watching all of that horsepower in her brain and knowing that like she could be helping
Yeah.
us because she did, and she's doing something that's more important. But it's like, you lost a podcast co-host. I lost the chief operating officer of the mastery program, but two kids gained a fully present mom, so it works out.
Yeah. I mean, like, I guess one of the things that when you just said that, one thing that popped in my mind is like, if I was in that situation, and this is probably my fault, but if I was in your situation, I would probably start like growing resentment or something like that. Because I'm like, hey, you could be helping me right now, and you have the capability to help me. But even though I
Who said I'm
understand,
not?
yeah.
Who said I'm not? Elizabeth, if you're listening, F you, dude. Um, she's not listening. She doesn't have time. But if you do a clip, she'll see it. No, you know what? I'm glad you said that because, and this is where like we'll get like I'm going to get a little analytical, but it was tempting to have a resentment, and I've been in those situations before. But one of the things that I teach people, and that I have been taught, and that I have to continually relearn myself, is this principle of surrendering the outcome. And so many times, I will try to manage my outcomes through other people. So, and I'll give you a different example like, hey, Elizabeth, if you don't tell Emmerette no, that she can't watch this show, she's going to grow up and be an entitled teenager. And I'm a recovering drug addict. And so she's going to have that energy and she's going to end up using an effing die. So I'm scared about all that. So you have to stop doing this. And so I feel like so many times our resentments and our angers and our fears when it comes to other people are related to our own fear for what's going to happen to us. But like, it's not okay to be selfish. So you try to say it's about them and it's really about you. And so I think that if I didn't know how to surrender the outcome, my approach with Elizabeth would be like, dude, you screwed me. I'm scared we're not going to be successful.
Mm-mm.
Like you weren't able to anticipate that you were going to want to bow out. I thought that you were going to want to bow out. And so I could have planned more better, but you said you didn't. And now you do. And so I'm sitting here trying to figure it out. And I'm scared that we won't be able to be successful and pick up the pieces. But I'm so practiced at surrendering the outcome. It's like automatic where, I mean, I don't always do it, but it's automatic where it's like, I can't control all this stuff. And actually, surrendering the outcome allows me to see the higher good in things. I'm like, actually, it's good that you're doing this. So let me go ahead and detach my outcome from what you're doing first. And then what can't I control? Okay, I can't control that we have more to do than we can and that Elizabeth was in it and she's out. But here's what I can control. And then, so one of the things that we did when we had our son, and for anyone that, for the few people that noticed me, I stopped posting on social media. That was one thing that I could do, is to literally say, we're going to sub optimize our platform, and just make posting content not a thing right now, because Elizabeth was so integral to that, so that she can go do that, and so that Brooke and I don't die trying. And you know what? A lot of people would say that's bad, and maybe we'll find out that it is. But we had to surrender the outcome, and that gave me the freedom to go to Elizabeth. Hey, I'm glad you're doing this. I see the benefit in it. I'm grateful for it, and not carry the weight of the world on my
Yeah.
shoulders. I tap into it every once in a while for sure when I get really scared. But I would have a resentment against her because I would be scared about what would happen to me if
I
I
think
didn't know how to
maybe the
surrender.
environment has a lot to do with it. Like for because when you just said about not posting on social media, because I've had few of those moments too. And
Yeah.
when you're always like posting on social media, and social media is very like momentum based, right? So you almost feel this pressure like, oh, I need to post something, I need to post something. Like, and it's like this like hidden like pressure that you feel like you wake up and that's something important that you have to do, and it's like in the back of my mind, but I know I have this other more
Yep.
important thing I need to do that I might not even not feel the immediate pressure, but it is more important. And sometimes I'll ignore this more important thing because this
Yeah.
visible thing that's around my environment or whatever is causing me to, and that happens to me a lot. So a lot of times like I have to do what you said, right? Like I the thing that you always talk about, like what can you control, what can't you control, and just at that moment I have to be like, okay, like so this posting on Instagram is this. That's also why I've only started posting like every other day or every 2 3 days, because I literally on those days that I know I'm not posting, I have to be like, okay, today I'm not posting. I just gotta let that go because
Yep.
that's not gonna happen because I have this more important thing I need to do right now. And then once I tell myself that, I'm fine. But if I tell myself I'm gonna do this and also create something, then like it goes it goes wrong.
But I think the point that you just made is a really important one. I think a lot of it has to do with how visible it is, because not to get like crazy philosophical here, but at the end of the day, it's triggering a fight or flight mechanism
Mhm.
inside of us. And it's like, I won't survive if I don't do X. And so it is very visible, the threat to you, because the entire world has a view of what you're doing and they can respond and engage and tell you if they don't like it.
Mhm.
But if you have like this project with this one person over here
Mhm.
and they're virtual and they're not even physically next to you, no matter how much intellectually you know that that might be more important that day, it's really like your body wants to tap into all the noise over here because that's a
Yeah.
potential threat. Because back in the day, it could be a tiger in a bush that's like going to attack us or whatever. And humans are terrible against tigers. Like, I think tigers are like 1,000-0 against humans in hand-to-hand combat. And I don't know if that's true. ESPN.com brought that up, but like, so a lot of it has to do with how visible you make it. So that's why when we teach surrender the outcome, we have people create a sheet where it has can't control and can control in the top, and we have them write down, like they'll be like, I know what they are. I'm like, I don't care if you know what they are. Write them down, and we have them actually write them down, so it brings everything to the same place and it's visible. And I commend you, because I think it's harder for you to not post because you said it's momentum based. Let's be real, dude. You've got momentum and I don't. So it's easier for me not to. Like the TED Talks had almost 2 million views. I got people in the mastery program. But social, like, I don't really think that we ever really established like serious momentum, probably because my heart wasn't in it, to the degree that I think, and my capacity, my skill set wasn't. But like, you actually have momentum And that's a very significant responsibility to feel. So that decision for you must have been really hard to say, I'm going to post every other day or every
It's,
two
I
days.
mean,
Like
it's a
that must have been
decision I have to
scary.
make every single day. Like,
Yeah. It's kind of, you're kind of like a, you know what, you're kind of like a drug
yeah,
addict, man. You
yeah,
got to
I
choose
am.
not to use.
I am. And I always
Well,
say
actually,
that, like, I have a terrible like tolerance for alcohol. Like, I can't drink at all. If I have one beer, like, I'll turn all red and I'll start getting headaches and things like that. And I'm always say I'm so glad that that's the case, because if I actually didn't have that, I'll probably be an alcoholic. Like, I have such an
yeah,
addictive.
because we talked about
Uh,
that. You kind of have an addictive
uh,
personality. So it's good. You've like biologically installed
yeah,
antabuse.
yeah.
So you're good.
Woo-hoo, thank
We
God.
we should be seriously, we should be like identifying the chromosome on your body that makes it so that you can't tolerate alcohol. And we should be like, if we're going to biologically engineer different traits, we should try to biologically engineer that into other people.
Yeah. So, and you're right, right? It's the environment, because even within client work, when I used to do a lot of client work, it was always the client that nags me the most is gonna get the
Yeah,
most
it
from me.
wins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not. Yeah,
Well, so wait, so here's a question, because I think that, you know, you, I know I don't know perfectly, but I know the audience that you're serving. And so a lot of your audience is trying to do a lot of things that you're doing really well. So for them, like, what is the fear that you feel when you make the decision, I'm not going to post today? Like what actually
they
happens
don't
in your
care.
head? No, no, no. I know they don't
Yeah.
care. I'm talking about, but for you,
Mm.
for like the fear of I'm not going to post today, like that can't have just been like super easy. Like, hey, I'm just not going to post today. It's like, oh, well, I feel the weight of that momentum. I feel like I need to tend to my, following. I need to engage. I need to do all these things. Like, what is the fear? Like, what does your brain tell you is going to happen if you skip or if you don't engage?
I guess yeah, it's two parts, right? One of them is like all just vanity metrics, right? It's like it's algorithm, because like I'm thinking in my head, and I don't know if it's true or not, but when I do post every day for like 3 4 days in a row, like it progressively the reach goes up, right? Whereas then
Yep.
if I skip like 2 or 3 days or something like that, then it starts to slow down or something like that. So obviously that, right? I have the fear of, okay, like algorithm's gonna hate me now, and like, which, like, at the end of the day, like, that's also another thing I have to keep reminding myself, like, dude, son, like, you're not like, when I first started with 150 followers, I didn't care, right? I spent more time like just making amazing content back then, because it was the process of making that content was what I enjoyed. And then now it's just like, son, I got to keep reminding myself to go back there, right? And then the second thing is like, um, I've been ignoring a lot of like DMs and comments and stuff like that, just because like that shit has been taking me hours, right? Like, for
Yeah,
me to sit and reply to every comment on a post would literally take me 2 or 3 hours, and I'm like, I just don't have the time for that. And then DM would take another 2 or 3 hours, right? So I've been kind of starting to ignore those, and with that, I feel really bad because I.
of course. Well, you're someone who likes to like to help other people, and so the good news is from here on out, you're just totally fucked. Like
I'm
that's the
fucked.
good news. Yeah. Like that, because you're only going to have more people that are going to want something from you, or just to send you love or whatever, and you're going to feel a desire to respond. And the truth is that, you already said it, like it's not going to crush them if you don't respond. And if someone actually is crushed that you don't respond, then they're not being empathetic, because they don't understand what it's like to be busy. And I feel like every human being I talk to in this world, if you ask them how they're doing, the one thing they'll say is busy. So everybody's busy, whether you're an influencer or just a parent, like everybody's
That's
freaking
true.
busy. And everybody doesn't have the capacity to keep up with all the requests that are coming in, because digital makes it so easy. And so if you're like, and you talk about like focus and stuff. So if you're just practicing what you preach, you'll be able to continue to be the guy that likes to build content. I mean, when I got clean, I was in a halfway house with two other dudes in a 10 by 10 room, and all I had was a bed, an accordion file where I put my bills that I actually paid for the first time in my life instead of getting stuff repossessed. And I was so happy. I was so happy. I had nothing, but I was so grateful to be alive and to be clean and to be able to pay a cell phone bill. And I still look at that moment and say, the rest of my life, I'm trying to get to a place where I feel that happy. And I have all this great stuff.
Do you feel happier back? Do you have like this?
I felt happier then. I felt happier then.
Oh,
Life
wow.
was simpler. It was really simple. It was my job. I had one job that I was probably not going to do well, and that was stay clean and survive and be a productive member of society. And so things were really simple. Now, because I take care of my recovery, I've been able to have all these gifts like a family and a business and like all these things that I'm not saying it's not good to strive for those things, but attaching to them and thinking that they're going to provide happiness is like, I mean, there's a million people that talk about that. But for me personally, there's something very clarifying. I love movies where the world ends. Not because I'm rooting for the world to end, but because of the freedom to drop all the shit that doesn't matter. When the zombies are coming at you, like whether your art is like on the wall, right, doesn't fucking matter anymore. Like that just doesn't matter. And so I think that, things were just so clear what really mattered when I was in that little room fighting for my recovery. And so I think about you with the 150 followers at the beginning, or me when I did the TED talk and I didn't know if anyone would watch it. As long whatever we have to do to get, like, I have to work really hard to try to get back to that place mentally, and I don't get there. I try to get as close as I can. And so like one of the things I always talk about that everybody thinks I'm morbid is I talk about deathbed. I'm always like obsessed with trying to change my perspective to what will matter when I'm dead.
Mhm.
um, because like if I don't do that, then suddenly all the emails, all the likes, well, wait, not nearly as much, but like not a lot, but like enough to. So how about this? I'm overwhelmed by my following, and in terms of like Instagram and stuff, it's a fraction of yours. And so that's why I said the good news is you're fucked from here on out because you have no choice but to surrender it, or else you're going to go crazy.
Yeah. So I mean,
Like
I
you have to.
you kind of like so like what's happening is like as you gain more success, doesn't matter in whatever, whether in business or finances or whatever it is, it actually makes you unhappier because now you have more to lose. You're
Yes,
yeah.
dude. So this is really effed up, but like, so we made after I sold my company, I bought my dream home, and I knew that it wouldn't make me happy long term, but it was something I wanted to do, and I was able to do it, and a lot of recovering addicts don't. So I took advantage of the opportunity, and so we recently downsized from that home because we wanted to simplify our lives.
Downsize to
And
like a 5,000 square foot home.
shut up. Shut up. We're in Nashville. You're in New York. That sounds like a lot to you. In Nashville, they practically give you 3,000 square feet just for walking into the state. Um, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But yes, so for us, that was a downsize. But yes, I know. And the thing is that like I when we started doing the mastery program, I still continue to use a lot of what I made from it quicker in my retirement to fund it. I'm our investor and I'm getting a terrible return on my investment financially. Um, and yet I'm still able to downsize to a 5,000 square foot house. I'm still able to provide food for my children and all that kind of stuff. And yet I am more scared about what I'm investing in the mastery program than I was when I maxed out my credit card, drained my 401k, and
Mhm.
withdrew everything from my bank account when I started my company, which makes no sense at all. Because what I'm doing is I feel like I have this responsibility. Like if I waste this money, I'm like a terrible human. I should have never gotten any in the first place. And I feel bad that other people don't have money. Like I have all this like survivor guilt type stuff, but it's more to manage. It's more to think about. It's more whatever. And I don't want to be one of those people who's like, you don't want it. Like, and look, I'm a recovering drug addict, man. It does not matter. You tell me I don't want it. Let me make that fucking decision. Give me your money. Like I'll make the decision that I don't want it. Like you can be pontificate and do Maslow's hierarchy of needs all you want while you're in your 5,000 square foot house. But I'm over here trying to make ends meet. I was
Mm,
there too. But I do think that when life is simple materially, it has a way of reinforcing what's important. When it becomes complex, regardless of why what that complexity is, whether it's because of affluence or because of health or because of world situation wherever you live, I think that things can get distorted sometimes a little bit, and I think that drives dissatisfaction because we're not wired to appreciate what we have. We're wired to look for a threat, and
mm,
the more stuff you have, the more threats you have.
yeah. More expectation
Stupid.
of like what's gonna happen if you lose it.
Yeah, I mean, dude. So when we moved into this house, we were like, "Hey, let's have someone put on some Christmas lights on the front. We
Mhm,
really want to make this festive. It's Wolf's first year. It's the first year Emirates really going to understand Christmas." And so we have this thought, right? And so this is like I would say this is similar to when you're scrolling on Instagram and you see an ad for some gadget that's going to make your life
mhm,
better, and then you want to buy it.
mhm,
I'm sure nobody's done that. And so we get this guy that for really cheap in the neighborhood is going to put some Christmas lights on the house. So he does that. So we go out to turn them on, and they don't turn on.
mhm,
Then we turn them on, and they blow a fuse,
mhm,
and then that causes another problem
mhm,
with the house or whatever. And I'm sitting here dealing with all this stuff. And I'm saying none of this shit fucking matters. There are people fighting for their life. There are people that are
mhm,
sick. There are people that can't make ends meet. Like this shit does not matter. But at the same time, there's something in me that won't let myself just walk around with a house with a bunch of lights on it that are broken and a blown fuse and all that kind of stuff. And so suddenly, this small little incremental perfectionistic thing to improve my quality of life that won't actually has actually robbed me of time. And so, like, you buy that gadget on Instagram, and then it's like, oh, you need the right batteries.
mhm,
And then it's like, oh, you need to install it right. Oh, you need to
mhm,
look up a YouTube video to use it right. And like
mhm.
the whole time, the efficiency was promising you could have just done by using something that your parents use in the kitchen or whatever it is. And I just feel like, we're a lot of us are, for those of us that are worried about survival, that's what we're worried about. But for those of us that are able to technically survive, we're worried about really advanced stuff. And we have a tendency to really create prisons around
Yeah,
ourselves with all these things that we have to manage.
that's true. And I think that's why, like, you know, I mean, this is gonna sound fucked up, but like, I think when I didn't have money, I always say I don't care about money, right? When I didn't have
Right.
followers, I used to always say I don't care about followers. And I think that's like a trend, right? Like a lot of people, most people who say they don't care about money are the ones who don't have money, and most people who don't who say I don't care about followers are the. It's because I really don't think that you know how that feels
Until
until
you
you
have it.
have it, that and
Yep.
you're afraid to lose it, right? Like that's when.
Yep.
And so how do we stop that, right? Like because the
Oh, that's
secret
well
is
documented. The hedonic treadmill. Like it's simple.
like
It's just whether or not you have the balls to get off.
yeah. Well, the secret is to have the money and have the followers, but actually don't care about it. Like, how do
I
you
think
do
that's
that?
the illusion that people sell.
Mm.
I think that's the illusion that people sell. I
What's the truth?
For most of us, there
Mhm.
might be an exceptional human out there that's able to detach from all that. So, like, I imagine somewhere Thich Nhat Hanh has the capacity to detach from how much people read his books. Like, that guy can do it. I can't. I look at stuff around me and I'm going to want it. I'm going to want to perfect it. I'm just realistic. I think philosophically, but I'm also very pragmatic. I think that I have to just look myself in the mirror and say, I'm going to choose to pay the price and I'm going to be tempted. And so, like,
Pay the price, meaning like that you are gonna be. y- y-
the price of attachment and the suffering that comes with it. I just got to be real with myself and say I'm signing up for that. Like I personally don't know how to have a lot of something and truly remain detached. I know how to go to a workshop, read a book, or watch a TED talk, get inspired, and spend a weekend not
Mhm.
attached. I don't know how to sustain that lack of attachment. And that doesn't mean that it's not possible and that people can't do it, but the majority of people that I've observed that, between my self-help mentors and all that stuff that are successful in detaching, it's not really detaching, it's removal.
What do you mean?
Like they don't live in the house that's really nice. They don't like build a business off of the followers. They don't like they don't try to have their cake and eat it too. They actually commit to the life of not having it. And then they don't let it affect anything that they're doing. Like Warren Buffett, we
I
all
see what you
know
mean.
so
Okay,
many things
yeah,
about him.
yeah.
Like he's living in this tiny house, and so like he has all this money, but he's not actually living like it. I mean, you ever hear the story about what he does when the market drops?
No.
So he goes every morning, and I don't know if he still does this, but the documentary I saw, every morning he goes to McDonald's to get like an egg McMuffin or like
Oh yeah,
the
I saw
pancake
that.
thing or
Yeah,
whatever. And based off of how the market does, he won't allow himself to get the more expensive
yeah.
item.
You guys like the one without the cheese or something.
Like, talk about like that's borderline insulting to the rest of humanity. Like for those of us that are like going through McDonald's and we're not even thinking about like the difference between a dollar, we're thinking about calories or taste or whatever. And this guy's got all this money. He's like, oh no, no sausage McGriddle for me today. The market went down. And so you can tell that the guy, like, it's not impacting him at
Yeah,
all. He's not actually using it. I feel like the person that
that's probably the
makes a
reason why.
fortune,
That's probably why he's
right?
so successful in investing in compound interest.
But he's not enjoying the benefit that we lust after.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's the most important thing is that we all go, we want to be Warren Buffett. But actually, the reason you want to be Warren Buffett is because you want his money. And if you want his money, it's because you want to buy a house or a car
mm,
or go on an expensive vacation. But that's not what he's doing.
mm,
And so he truly doesn't get like, and
mm.
this is obviously, I don't know him. This is just my perception, but it seems like he doesn't give an F. He doesn't use it. He doesn't like,
Yeah, he truly
it's
doesn't.
actually not part of his
Yeah,
life. And so he's the closest we'll come. This example, of course, Thich Nhat Hanh being another example, the closest we'll come to being that detached. And the truth is that it's for most of us, we kind of want the stuff, we kind of want the praise, we kind of want those things. And I think telling yourself that you're going to pursue them, achieve them, and then you're not going to care about them
yeah,
is a lot
yeah.
harder than it sounds. But what I do think is what we can do is we can live in this duality that feels like a paradox where I've been reading a lot of Wayne Dyer lately, so that's why I'm coming up with that. But like I think about the Tao. So is that how you pronounce it? Tao?
Tao. That's how I pronounce it.
Tao. Okay. I'm not even sure if I pronounced it right. So, but like he was talking about how it's really hard for us to live in paradoxes and dualities. And so it's like, believe in good and evil, and at the same time, believe there's no such thing as good and evil, like that kind of stuff. And so for me, I choose to live in the paradox of um, I know that this stuff isn't going to make me happy, but I'm going to pursue some of it. But my value system is going to be set up in such a way where I'm not going to allow myself to take actions that actually prioritize it. So, as an example, it's really important to carry my message. I want more exposure to create that message impact. I would like more followers, but I'm not willing to do what it takes to get them. As you've been telling me what to do for years, and I haven't been willing to do it because it's not higher than my value system of other things that
Mm,
are more in my skill set and more in my competency. And so I'm paying the price for that. But my value system is driving things. I still want the followers. My value system is not letting me trade my happiness for the followers. And that's the best I can hope for. But in other areas, I am trading against my values and I need to correct it as I see it. Does that make sense?
yeah, I actually been like looking into like the value system a lot recently, like with high value, and I just in the last few months, like I came to a realization that I've been all whacked out of my values, right? Like, um, because and I totally relate to you because I could have easily been like this nihilist where like, oh, nothing in the world matters. We're none of us
Oh,
matter.
you totally could have.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
so in the bigger scheme of things, I can do realizing that. But in reality, yeah, it does matter. It does matter if my dog dies or something. Yes, it does matter. Like I think that's the duality of paradox you're talking about. But yeah, value system wise, I feel like so many people tell themselves that these are my values, when in reality it's not true. And I think once you can recognize that, okay, these really are my values, and then you kind of align it with your career or whatever it is, then for example, like for you, right? Like for me, one of my value is actually creating, right? Like creating content
Yeah, absolutely.
and
Yeah.
and all of that. And so I love, like, it's like if I can just sit and like, full time every day, all day make content, I would. That's what I would do, right? That would be my dream job. So that's why it kind of aligns with getting followers. But you, on the other hand, you don't like that, right? You don't like making content, and you don't like doing that. But
Yeah.
there are other ways to get followers, right? So you just have to
Yeah.
somehow align your values to something that ultimately does that, right? Like, and I haven't been doing that for myself. I always used to say, oh, my, like, everybody says, oh, the most important thing is like relationship and all of that, right? But then recently, like, I've been thinking about my whole life. I'm like, I relationships actually are not really that high in my value list, because
Hopefully Gigi's not listening.
well, not that kind of relationship, but I mean, even with Gigi or even my friends and things like that, I'm usually never the person that like reach out to them and say, hey, like, let's do something, right? It's my friends always have to reach out to me, right?
Mm,
And
yeah.
it's so apparent. If I look at my entire life, it's so obvious that like relationship is not one of my highest values. But because like society always says like, oh, it's all about teamwork, it's all about blah 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 blah, and then like even in business I was like that, right? I was like, oh, like the team, the relationship, and blah 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 blah. But that was probably not the right way to run a business for me. Like, because I'm a very like, analytical, like kind of sit in my little,
Yep.
like bat cave and just like analyze and do that type of person. And that's my
But
yeah,
do you know how amazing it is that you just said that though? Like, I feel like for most people to say like, "Hey, actually relationships aren't as important to me," without trying to like go for shock value, like Gary Vee level shock value, like you're just being
yeah,
honest. I think that that's like that would be really hard for people to admit because we're all starving for connection, and there's
yeah,
so many ways to visibly create digital connection, but we're not actually connecting. And I think that like I know that creation is like what you're built to do. And I think for your ability to just like own that is important. And what you just said about being a business owner, the problem, I think one of the biggest problems that at least I had was I used to always assume that I had to follow the model that other people
yeah,
used. And so I would get enamored with a certain type of, whether it was when I was playing tennis or, whether when I was, trying to get a girl or whether like whatever, like it was, this is a person I want to be like them instead of asking me, who do I want to be? And so then what ends up happening is I have visibility to like one playbook for how to be successful. And so like building my first company, I had a mentor that all of his businesses he built through venture capital. And that aligned with his strengths, his interests, his value. He was an investor. He liked that stuff. He was always trying to get me to invest. And I'm like, dude, that's not my playbook. Like that's not me. I'm a bootstrapper. And for the longest time I'd be like, oh well, I should do that. I should. And luckily that's one example where I stayed true. But what I always thought, and this is like fucked up, I truly believed that I was hurting everybody around me by not raising money because someone that was successful had a playbook around this is how you were successful. And he only wanted me to be successful. He was only advocating for something he'd had that was successful. And so, like, I've had to learn that I think what's more important than the strategy
hmm,
is how well aligned you are in terms of your values with the strategy. Because if you can align your strategy, whatever it is, in parenting and whatever, with what is true to you, you can take out all of the energy that you waste trying to be someone else and double down on you. Like there's that book Strengths Finder. Like it's like, hey, just don't worry about your weaknesses, just follow your strengths. Like it's similar to that, but you waste so much energy trying to be someone else. And so like when you're talking about this, like for you creating, like you are leaning into what you are good at. And so for me, I'm good at B2B. And so I had to, B2B2C specifically. And so the way that I'm going to get like people that are impacted by what I'm doing is I'm going to serve companies because that's what my last company did. And that's what my company before that did. And so like that's what my strength is. And so I was wasting so much energy trying to be like you, right? Like not I didn't know it at the time or whatever, but that's I'm not good at that. Like, and I'm not passionate about it. I don't wake
Yeah.
up naturally going, "Oh man, how can I create content today?" And you're probably fucking going, "Man, I don't know why I slept because I want to do more content today." And
Yeah.
meanwhile, I'm like really passionate about, hey, that's a company that talks about authentic leadership, but what they're doing is bullshit. So let me give them a real system to do it. And then like seeing the light bulb go off and being able to tie it to P&L and make it like real inside of a company culture, like that's exciting to
Uh,
me. It sounds business dorky, but and I don't really care about the businesses, honestly. It's just about the employees. All I care about is employee experience, really. At the end of the day, all I really care about is human experience. And so I just know that most of us go to work. So therefore, employee experience is the best way to impact human experience. And so then the best way to impact employee experience is to trick a business into thinking that making an authentic culture is in their benefit from a financial
well, you're
perspective,
not tricking.
when in reality,
You're not tricking them because
what?
it is.
I know, but I focus on that. I'm like, oh, it'll make you money or whatever. Because if I tell them, hey, you should be authentic, they're like, that's just some self help bullshit. We don't want that.
Mhm,
And so, but like that's so much more aligned with
mhm,
what I do, what naturally, and therefore I don't have to work as hard, and therefore I'm willing to work longer, better, or shorter because I'm better at it. Like whatever your value system, getting in line with that. Like, what are your other values? So the first one's create. What's the
creating
other
like
one?
curiosity, I think knowledge, learning, and teaching. So when I say
Yep.
relationship, like yes, like that typical relationship we think of, but I do love teaching and I do love learning. And one of the things that I've been realizing
Yeah.
recently is that what I love about teaching is is actually learning, because a lot of times when I teach, I feel like this like I would say something that's kind of like that maybe I'm not doing myself, right? Or some
Right.
it'll expose me on something like I should be taking my own advice or something like that, where it makes me feel like I don't know what's the word, like like a
Fraud.
hypocrite, yeah, like
Yeah.
so I've been learning a lot through that. Like every time I do a post or every time I'm talking to someone, I'm like, oh shit, I'm a fucking hypocrite. Like I'm not doing the things that I'm telling other people to do. Um, Another thing is like when I teach something, an idea that I thought I knew well, and then somebody asks me a question that'll kind of throw me. I'm like, that's a great question, right? Then I try to go out and I learn and try to find that answer, and that helps me learn. So,
You know how drug addicts get around all that? Recovering drug addicts is like a sponsor. A sponsor never says I'm an expert or I know. They just say, "Here's my experience,"
mm.
and
Yeah,
you're never going to be wrong sharing your experience.
yeah.
But I do know that you love to learn, and I do know that you're willing. I mean, there's a level of humility that most people don't have, where they're willing to evolve what they think they know based off of what other people say, or when they see that they're not practicing it. Like that takes a lot of humility and introspection. But
Mm.
like that's what makes you a good teacher and a good student, because you're willing to teach and you're willing to learn, and then you're also willing to learn when you teach, and that creates a cycle. Because dude, we all have that, dude. One of the things that I do is I teach SaaS companies how to install enterprise sales systems and be successful from a sales perspective by being authentic in sales. And you know what I had to realize was I am doing a terrible job selling that service. I'm doing a terrible job selling the service on how to sell. Like that is jacked up, dude. That is jacked up. Like that is, and so I think a lot of us think that we need to be perfect to live up to what we're saying. If we just modify what we're saying from I'm an expert, I know all, it's absolute, which is really convenient, pierces through the noise, to here's my experience. I don't always follow this myself, by the way. Um, I find that I feel safer when I say this is my experience, because my experience is always subject to revision.
Mm. Yeah, I feel that way all
But
the time.
yeah,
So I actually wanted to go back and ask you about because I think there's a lesson to be learned. Maybe there is, but when you said they were saying you should, your mentor was saying you should get investment, right? You should take investment, and you were like, no, no,
yep.
no, no. So is it so? Are you saying that taking on investment was not authentic to you, like, or why were you ignoring that, for example?
So for me, basically there's two different types of fears that I will have. One is, oh, I'm not good enough to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can come up with a story of why that's not authentic to me, but really I'm just scared of my growth edge.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are other times where it's like, I don't want to live that way. I don't agree with that. Like, I don't want to live that way. And then someone says you have to live this way to get what you want. And I want to be like, no, I don't. And so in this example, while I was intimidated and scared about raising money because I'd never done it before, what I would always tell them is I would say, I don't know what I would spend it on because we
Mm-hmm.
were so efficient. And so what basically what I learned was I needed to build this like really big story for the company about everything that we're going to do when I didn't believe in it 100% myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the things that we believed in was something that Jason Fried from 37 Signals would say is don't make tomorrow's decisions with today's information. Why not defer tomorrow's decisions when you have tomorrow's information? And so we were building this agile startup in healthcare, which is a very slow moving space. And instead of raising money, we wanted to just focus on solving problems. And we thought it was better time spent talking to our customers and figuring out how to build things that they like than talking to investors, raising a bunch of money, and then convincing customers what they should want, like with marketing and a sales force and all this stuff. And so to me, it was a more inauthentic path to market. Like it forced me to, and when we went through the process of selling the company, I learned this. When you raise money, you are building in reality in the company that investors want to invest in. Those start to become two different things
Mm-hmm.
subtly, but over time. But like we were in a Forbes article against a competitor of ours that had raised 150 million venture capital, and I said I will raise money when I think that's the best thing for this business, and I know what I'm going to spend it on. Until then, it just sounds like people are saying we should raise money because we can, but I don't trust myself with it because I don't know what I would spend it on. So like I would rather just not do any of that. And it was just
But why?
for me
Why?
it
So when
was
did you realize that that would have been the best choice? That would have been the best for
so
for the company.
it to me it was a good decision. So for a long time it was a really good decision. But by 2013, my partner and I started to not see eye to eye. We started having a bunch of competitors. And one of the things that happened was he and I basically had a disagreement. And the way that we were going to resolve it was by raising money to buy him out.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went through that process, I had to hire investment bankers and they made me learn. So actually, this is a great juxtaposition. They gave me this financial model and they said, Michael, you need to learn this and know it better than anyone else. I said, no, I don't like that. I'm not good at that. I can never learn that. And one of my mentors, David Clements, they were like, well, David learned it over a weekend and it really helped. And I was like, crap. Okay. All right. I'll do this. And so I was just scared that I couldn't do it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did the model, I learned that I had some basic assumptions around how we were going to grow organically that were wrong, like just flat out wrong. And I realized in the process, hey, for us to do the things that we're setting out to do, it was okay bootstrapping the first 5 years because we didn't have a bunch of competition. But now our competitors have been acquired by billion-dollar companies that are pumping a ton of money into what they're doing. And so no one's even going to be able to we're not going to be able to keep up at all if we don't have more resources that are faster.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that process, I got humbled because I realized we made the right decision bootstrapping, but we had made a growth plan that long term to sustain required investment of capital.
Mm-hmm.
We could have chosen a more modest growth plan, but we were bootstrapping, but we also were like the number one player in our space. So we wanted to expand that footprint. And those two didn't go together. We either needed to honor our humble focus on bootstrapping and say we're just going to own a small part of the market that we created, or we're going to say we're going to raise money and try to own a bigger part of the market because we want to make the impact. But we were in the worst of both worlds, and we didn't know that that difference happened. And just we were lucky enough that we went through all this stuff and realized that we needed to raise money. So we were like, okay, so if we're going to recap my partner out, we're also going to raise like 10 to 20 million so that we can grow. And I kept telling everybody, I said, so if I'm not the right CEO, then I'm happy to step down. Like, I don't want to, but I also don't want to hurt this company. But I've never managed that amount of money before in a business, and it's not really my forte.
Mm-hmm.
And then the best thing to do with the business at that point that we learned was to sell it. It gave it and the employees and the customers the best chance to continue. And then I tried with launching of the book and my platform to be a VC guy, except I was using my money and I hired a PR firm and did all this
You
stuff.
went the opposite
And I
route.
realized, yeah, I went the
Yeah.
opposite route. 'Cause I'm like, oh, I should have done that. I should have done that. Nope. Got humbled. Pandemic killed the book launch. Like it's all good now, but like it's been a real tough road. And it's like, no, you should have bootstrapped this thing too, because that's who you are.
Mm,
I don't like class. I never liked classes in college. That's
mm,
why I dropped out. I don't like academic shit, man. I want to solve real problems in front of
mm.
me. And when you raise money, you have to get into an academic realm. That I love everybody that does that, but that's just not me. I need to solve like a problem that's in front of me with a real person and solve it in a real way, not in a theoretical way.
You
But
know
it was very
the
humbling.
like yeah, what you bring up is kind of, we probably won't be able to cover it today, but like I talked about it briefly recently, but it's like that difference between like, that's not me. Like I need to be true to myself, like authentic, versus actually also because sometimes that can make you stubborn, right? Like,
Yeah, totally, totally. So are you resisting the growth that you should do, or are you resisting what other people think you should do?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And
The answer to that's actually really simple. Like seriously, it's really simple. I learned it in recovery. What's your motivation? At the end of the day,
mm, mm, mm. Yeah,
are you
I guess
saying
you have
no
to be honest. Yeah,
because
you have to be honest with yourself about your motivation,
yeah,
which
you're
is
scared that
like
you
the
won't be able to
hardest
do it?
part, which is like I think what
Yeah,
most people can't do, including myself.
but that's why if you and I both had to do the same thing, if I do it and you do it, that doesn't mean that we're both authentic or we're both like whatever. It just means that the question is that did we do it to manage other people's perception and like say we're going to do what other people do?
Mm.
Or did we do it because we saw, wow, I need to grow. I'm terrified, but I'm going to do it. So then the same thing is true if you don't do it. If you don't do it, is it because you challenged what other people think you should do and you're being true to yourself? Or did you not do it because you're scared that you can't grow? Or you're not even admitting that you have a problem. And so like an alcoholic needs to stop drinking. It's not a societal norm.
Mm.
Like if they're wrecking on the interstate, like they need to stop drinking. And they could say, no, I'm just challenging conventional norms. But the
Yeah,
truth is they're hiding from their problem.
yeah,
But then someone else that like I go to dinner with someone and they know I'm a recovering addict and they go, well, I'm not going to have a drink. I'm like, you're not doing that to save you. You're doing that because of what you're thinking. I think have a drink. I'm not going to judge you. If that's something that you would do it. And so we can all take the same actions, but it's what is our motivation? Is our motivation truly to essentially embrace and love who we are, or is it to hide and stagnate who we are?
yeah. I guess it you kind of when you said about that alcoholic that's like, oh, I'm against social norm, blah blah blah. That's the identity he built for himself. Like in his mind, I'm authentic because that's not me, and you know. So, but he's actually being inauthentic by saying that, because deep down inside, that's not the reason why he's drinking. Is you know,
So here's how you can tell the difference between when someone's got that, because people do that all the time.
yeah,
People that will tell you, "I don't follow X.
yeah,
I'm not doing
yeah.
X because other
I do
people
that a
do."
lot.
Well, the question is, do you have as much to say about what you do believe in related to that issue? Like
Mm,
what, not in terms of the negative in other people, but what you believe in. So,
mm,
for example, I had a friend that was like that really just wanted to act out sexually
mm,
in his relationship. Like he had a relationship, but he wanted to like go have sex with other people.
mm,
He's like, I just don't believe that marriage. Like I think that's just something we're socialized with.
mm,
Like this monogamy thing is, just a mental construct.
mm,
And so like the question would be, okay, so what do you believe? What do
mm,
you think was designed for us, or what is
mm,
our natural thing
mm,
when it comes to love and sex? And it's like, oh, I don't know. Okay,
mm,
cool.
mm.
So you built an identity only in opposition to something. That means you're in denial.
Yeah,
It's when you're challenging something because you believe in something else that you're being true to yourself.
yeah, yeah. So if you're the type of person that says it's, things shouldn't be this way or things shouldn't be that way, then you still have to say, then how should it be? Right? You have to have
Yeah, and
that.
like and mean it. And
Yeah.
because the difference is that if you say something sucks and you're just starting with that sucks. So for example, let's just say politics, regardless of what side you're on
Mhm.
or multiple sides. If all you're saying is they suck,
Mhm.
then literally your entire perspective is based off of them, not you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah,
just
yeah,
going the
yeah, yeah. Okay,
opposite of
okay,
them.
okay. Got it. Yeah.
But if you say, I believe in X, and then someone comes along and they say, I believe in Y, you go, I don't think that's right. I
Yeah.
think X is right.
Yeah.
Now what you're doing is you're talking about what you believe
Yeah.
in. And,
And if
and,
you're
and I think
like,
a lot of times it's easier to talk about what you don't
yeah,
believe in
yeah.
than what you do believe in.
And it's exactly what you said. It's like, is it coming from within, or does it have to do with what how other people's opinions, right? Like,
Yep.
if you do believe in this, and let's say you don't believe in that, actually it wouldn't even bother you that people believe in that, because you just believe in this. Like, it has nothing to do with the fact that they believe in that's not the reason why you believe in this.
Yes. One of my mentors told me, and this killed me when she said it. She said, if someone says something about me and it bothers me or angers me, it means that there's a part of me that agrees with them. And it's like, whoa. So like if they say something, I'm like, I'm not that. How dare you say that? The
Mhm.
only reason I'm upset is because there's a small part of me
Yeah,
that agrees with them.
yeah,
Because if I didn't,
yeah,
like if my daughter was giving like my wife and I,
mhm.
Elizabeth and I, marriage advice, do you really think we're going to sit down and be like, no, you're wrong, and like refute her points? Like, no,
Yeah,
we'll just be like, okay, Murat,
yeah,
thank you. It has no power.
yeah. That's true. That's
So we,
true.
we give people the
I'm like
power.
that. Yeah. When I get feedback on my work or something like that, like, I'm gonna get offended if there's truth. Like, if somebody's criticizing my work, and I know they're like, that's true. That's what that's what's gonna affect me the most. Then, you know.
I think that guys like you and I, so people like you and I are, we are at risk of acting like the person that's just negative about the other things. Because sometimes you'll do that and I'll do that too. Like I'll be like, oh, they suck, they wear
Yeah,
masks,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
won't talk about like what I believe. And that's because I think that if you are truly humble and truly a learner, there's teachers, but the best teachers are also learners. If you're truly a learner, that means you're always willing to acknowledge that you might be wrong,
That's true.
which means you're always going to feel a little
Yeah,
insecure in what you believe.
yeah,
And that's okay.
yeah.
That's okay. So like when I was building in Quicker, man, when people were telling me to raise money, like I had a friend that like a couple years later, when I was like on a panel about raising money, and he's like, "You've really matured." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Because you're not so angry." He's like, "You're not like this teenager pointing fingers at everybody that's raising money. You were just talking about. You stopped talking about why everybody who raises money sucks, and you started talking about why you like bootstrapping."
Mm, mm,
And I was
mm,
like,
mm,
"Oh." And the truth is, I didn't know why I like bootstrapping.
mm,
I
mm.
wasn't sure yet. It's so much easier to build an identity around what I don't believe than what I do. And it just took me time to understand why I didn't like it. But for the longest time, I would just point
Yeah,
at people and say they suck. And it just took me
uh,
time to figure out what I thought was good.
yeah. So that exactly kind of summarize it, right? Like, it's if you say that, that's just not me, this is me, that doesn't necessarily mean you're like, you can be authentic and change your mind too. Right? Like, change.
I don't think you can be authentic and not change your mind. Human beings are
uh,
rapidly dynamic.
yeah,
Human beings that are never fully self-aware.
mm,
So there's no way that
uh,
you can say I'm never going to change my
yeah.
mind.
Just
It's
just be
authentic to
open.
say
Yeah.
this is my current truth.
Hmm.
Or this is what I want to believe is true forever. This is what I believe is true forever. But like the truth is always
it's
subject to revision.
and it's probably just like the words you use, instead of, because like, I tend to say a lot like, hey, you should do this, you shouldn't do that, do. But it's just say I should just say, hey, like, for me, I don't do that, I do this. Or then it's
Yeah. Well, and you know what? It's also not bad if you say you should do X. Like you're allowed to be like we're talking about like being the teenager versus like knowing your stuff.
Mhm.
It's okay to like show up anywhere on that spectrum. The question is, do you own it when you realize it? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's
Okay,
a
okay.
because I'll do that stuff. I mean, you're the one that helped encourage me to step into my confidence. So I'm more likely to like just for the sake of time tell someone, hey, here's what I think you should do, instead of just going, oh, this is my experience. But then if someone goes, hey, that advice was like bad or that didn't help or I'd really challenge this, if I'm willing to listen and go, was I wrong? Like, do I have a new understanding here? That saves me. That gives me the freedom to kind of be anywhere on the spectrum of like, this is what you should do to this is my experience. I want to be on the this is my experience spectrum, but I'm too passionate
Mm-mm-mm.
to stay there and live there. Like again, that's Thich Nhat Hanh territory for me. I wanted to be him. That's why I use him. I wanted to be him. I want to just sit there and be mindful and all that kind of stuff. And just I have to accept that I'm not
Uh-huh.
him. I want to be parts of him, and so I want to aim for this place. But it's okay if I'm not. I mean, it's not like we're talking about like going around with a hatchet, like
Yeah.
killing people, son. Like, if you tell people you should do
Yeah.
this, like, and there's probably like 90% chance it's going to help them, you're not really hurting people.
Yeah. And also, like,
Same
it could
here.
be something could be true to me and not be true to you, right? Like, it's like right now, one
Totally.
of the things that I'm saying to I'm saying is that, like, again, this is like coming from outside, but I feel like most people that sell online courses, they're not really teachers, they're marketers, right? And I feel like that's like
Oh yeah.
something that's lacking. Like, it's hard to, like, I don't think they're I think that's those are two very different things, marketing versus education. And there's a little bit of conflict of interest there, like conflict there too, right? Because if your motive is to sell a course and not actually teach people, like, how that might hurt each other, but like whatever it is, like, so that's kind of the thing. But it's really like it's focused around what other people are doing, and what I should do is just focus on, like, yeah, I'm because one of the things that I'm talking about is I don't want to do this whole funnel and then like trick people into buying my course and blah 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 blah. Because at the end of the day, if all I'm doing is tricking people to buy my course, the course is not going to work for them. At the end,
Right.
it's just going to be a course that they bought that's just sitting there that they never did. So, but I should just focus on, okay, what can I do to make sure, and not talk about what other people are doing wrong. Like that.
It's okay to talk about them, right? Like you're a human,
Mm-hmm.
but like you have a very clear, like I love your philosophy around this, especially like the funnel stuff, because I went down that rabbit hole a long time ago, and it's an icky world. It is a digital marketing world. It's not an impact world. Like you're literally building products that 70% of the people aren't going to use or 80% of the people aren't going to use. And then you're really just selling them those products so they could sell them other products, and it's icky. But at the same time, there are people like you that have like really valuable expertise that like it's a scalable way to help people. You just have to have the right heart. But like when I think about the messaging behind it, it is easier to say there are people that are digital marketers and this is bullshit because everybody can relate to that pain point. So from a marketing perspective, there's utility in that, right? I think the question is how quickly do I get to here's what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that an online course should not be a gateway to another product. I believe that an online course should be as if I myself sat down and said, how can I change your life? And I put everything into a mechanism to allow me to do that with multiple people. So my commitment to you is I'm not putting my marketing hat on and I'm not going to sit there and try to get you to buy something else. Is there a chance that I'll think of something else I can sell sometime?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. But my thing is that I have been sold so many times or been marketed to so many times something that's supposed to change my life when I know in my heart it was just created to change theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to create something that's going to change your life. And so this is what I believe and this is what I created. It's okay to talk about what the other people do. You just want to balance it with,
Yeah.
this is what I believe. And you have a very strong philosophy around how you're approaching that. And I think that people will appreciate that because we're all, especially with the pandemic, where it's like, oh my God, I could have passive income in a Ferrari. I'm just stupid enough not to take this course. Like, why am I the asshole that didn't fucking get the Ferrari and have like $20,000 a month coming in and doing nothing on a beach? Like, I just have to click this ad. Well, I'm not gonna be that guy. I'm gonna click this ad. It's bullshit.
But that was the message that kind of sales message you did was great. I'm going to use that.
Because it's the truth.
Yeah.
Well,
You
so
like exactly summarized what I was thinking.
so have you ever? So I know we have to wrap up, but have you ever read The Tipping Point by Malcolm
Yeah,
Gladwell?
yeah, yeah.
So you remember he talked about there's the salesman, the connector, and the maven.
Mhm.
And so the salesperson sells really effectively. The connector knows everybody, and the maven's someone that really understands something and
Mm,
helps
mm,
you with
mm,
it,
mm,
right?
mm, mm.
And he talked about like how what was it Paul Revere, or I don't even remember who the person that like alerted us the red coats are coming or whatever. That
Mm,
this person was a combination of those things. He was a connector and a salesperson, so he's able to get people to like rise up or whatever. So when I read that, I realized that a lot of people throughout my career mistook me for a salesperson, and I'm actually terrible at selling things. What I'm really passionate about is if I solve a problem, wanting to make sure that no one else ever has to struggle with that problem again. And so for you, like, I think same thing, right? So when I'm so what I the way that I sell is I have to ask myself, not how do I get them to buy? Why do I want this myself? And like why do I believe in it?
mm,
And that means I leave money on the table because there's manipulative things you can put into a sales approach to get people to buy. See, I'm not talking about a bunch of other people do. I'm just saying I don't want to do that. And the truth is that like I really relate to your philosophy around your online course. So like the way I came up with that is I was like, dude, I already know you well enough to know what you're trying to do, and I think that that's an incredible way to do it. And so if you say that and you just let that passion come through and that
mm,
authenticity come through, someone your customer's going to buy.
mm, mm.
I mean, you know this better than I do, but
That's probably
that's why we're doing this.
yeah. That I guess like because in my mind that's the best way to sell, right? To
Yeah.
speak passionately about what you already believe in, right? But I feel like the old way, like people think that sales is about like these tactics. You have to do this, you have to build rapport, you have to blah 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 blah. But now I feel like people are starting to see that that's not the best sale. Like the top salespeople, the really really great salespeople, like Steve Jobs. Like to me, like I think Steve Jobs is a great salesperson, and he does that great. He can like eloquently deliver his passion right through his message. And
The the difference is empathy. So so when I think so as someone who came up in sales and teaches sales, I get paid part of what I do. I get paid to teach salespeople how to unlearn everything they've been taught.
mm, mm, mm.
Because the movie that is like the example that everybody thinks of when you talk about salespeople is Glengarry Glen Ross. If you remember that
Yeah,
movie, but like
coffees for
these
closers.
hardcore, like, yeah, and they always be closing, always be
Yeah.
closing, all that kind of stuff. And so it's all about how do you manipulate a human to achieve your objective? How do you manipulate them into buying your thing? You might believe in it, you might not. That's like traditional sales. What Steve Jobs did was he put himself in the user's life and said, what would make my life better? And then passionately advocated for that reality.
Mm,
And so when like I'm teaching software as a service salespeople, a lot of times like they'll be like, oh well, I took a sales class that said I need to look at their earnings report and
mm,
tie this to a strategic initiative. And I'm like, no, what you need to ask them is why is it important to them?
mm,
They're going to give you the party answer, and then you ask why back. And then they're going to give you the professional answer, and then you ask why again. And then you say, I really want to know as a human, why do you care about
mm,
this? And they'll be like, oh, well, I really believe in X. And then now you're connected with that human and you're able to help them achieve the reason that they're here on this earth through you selling this product. But you're actually trying to meet that human where they are and make their life
mm.
better instead of trying to manipulate them into doing X. And it's just, there's a level of empathy that you have to have, and you have to be willing to drop like all
Like
this like
empathy
old sales
meaning
bravado bullshit.
like really putting yourself in that person's shoes, which is easier said than done, I think, for a lot of people.
It's so hard. Like for the people that like, so in healthcare SaaS,
Mm,
if you ask a person why they believe in your product, they are going to have to give you a political answer because they're trained to do that because they're very political environments. And so if you don't have the empathy to say, hey, as a human, man, just one human talking to another. Like, the reason that I do this job is A, I believe in the product that we sell. B, I want to grow my career, and C, I want to provide for my family. So out of curiosity for you, why do you believe in this?
Mm.
You have to have the empathy to give them permission to show themselves.
Mm.
And if you don't have that empathy,
Mm.
then you're not going to be able to connect to the real person. And it's just going to be a bunch of masks talking to each other. And then everybody's going to wonder why, oh, they didn't buy, or, oh, they oversold me something. And everybody's fucking
Mm.
confused. Just stupid.
Yeah. That which is actually I found out that that's actually my highest value is truth and honesty, right? It's just I
mean, you're really high on empathy too.
empathy.
I know you're laughing, but you are.
Yeah. I guess, yeah. For me, it's actually pretty easy for me to put myself in your shoes or someone's shoes when I'm talking to them. But I noticed that.
I mean, you may not empathize with serial killers, but
I mean, I think even a serial killer, I think I can, to a certain degree, empathize with them if I'm talking to them one-on-one. Like maybe I wouldn't empathize with them killing people, but I can see.
Well, so this is a clip, right? That this has to be a clip that I empathize with serial killers by my course. But I do think that illustrates. Yeah, seriously, like yours is better. I sympathize. Learn how to sell an online course by empathizing with serial killers by Sun Yi. I do think, though, that reflects who you are as a human, that you're still able to look for the humanity inside of a serial killer and empathize with where they are. That's special.
Mm.
Seriously.
Or I'm just crazy.
No, now you're just deflection because you're uncomfortable with a compliment.
Yeah, I am.
I do that too. I know. Me too. Spot it because I got it.
All right. Yeah, this always, like, I feel like this is going to be a great series, and I'm
Me
so
too.
glad. I mean, you're really busy. We're both busy, and we don't get to catch up a lot. And just like the fact that we can do this, like even through a podcast, I'm really grateful.
Oh, dude, I'm grateful too, because I mean, we're on slightly different paths, but I think like on the inside, we're going through similar things, and I think we just, in a very short period of time, experienced a lot of different things together, and I just, this was very life giving for me, just having this conversation with you, and being able to talk to you. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, yeah. I see you as a mentor. I mean, I don't.
I see you as a mentor too.
So yeah, I think it's gonna be something great, like having these conversations, and I think I'm definitely gonna learn. My listeners are definitely gonna learn, and thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, dude. Thank you. I'm excited. It's an honor. It's a pleasure, dude.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll, I guess, see Michael again in 2 weeks.
Cool. See you guys in 2 weeks.
Bye, Michael. Bye, everyone.
Bye, dude.